It's not what you do every now and then that makes a difference in your life. It's what you do every single day on a consistent and regular basis. This is a quote I heard from my very first mentor in 2011. And it always stuck with me, even though he's no longer in my life, as a mentor, as a coach, etc. And I just recently, I would say about a couple years ago, realized how powerful and potent that quote was. And the reason is because it's a reflection of our standards. What you do every single day, what you tolerate from yourself in regards to your habits, your rituals, your routines, this is your default operating system, AKA your standards, the standard. Right there, it's what you think matters in your life. And I have a question for you guys. What are your standards? What is it that you're doing every single day that you're allowing into your life? I want you to really ponder this, because it's what it is that you're doing in regards to your health, your fitness, your money, your finances, your relationships, your business, your career. What it is that you're doing every single day is a reflection of your standards. And it's going to lead you somewhere. And the question I want you to answer in your own mind is, where is that position for you? And this is so crucially important, because Tony Robbins has a great quote that I wanted to share with you. It matters because if you don't set a baseline standard for what you'll accept in life, you'll find it easy to slip into behaviors and attitudes, as well as a quality of life that's far below what you deserve. Coming to Toastmasters and learning how to be a public speaker, how to communicate, how to meet people and connect with high quality people, not just anyone, not just random people you meet on the street. This is a high standard. Why? Because we're all here for the same reason. We want to grow, we want to improve, we want to develop. We are all making a conscious choice to be here today. The problem with most people is that they aren't making these choices deliberately. They're being controlled by their impulses, their whims, they're being controlled by life circumstances. They're essentially a plastic bag caught in the wind. And so I implore you that whatever it is that you're doing, that you learn how to take control of it and start moving forward with a new standard in mind, with a new level of operating that is higher and that is better than what it is that you're currently doing. Because I have a question for you. Who here has a goal or an aim or some kind of ideal condition of life that is better than what it is you have right now? Raise your hand. All right, so just by the virtue that we don't have something that we want, it means something needs to change about us. If we didn't have to change anything, then we would have what we want. I'm the same way. There are plenty of things out there that I want, which means I need to do better as well. We're all in the same boat here. The only thing is, when we decide to make these changes and go forward with this new standard, something is required, because we all have that initial excitement, that initial motivation and enthusiasm when we decide we want to do something new. And that's a great thing. I love it. That's what gets us going. We need that. But then we need to turn that initial excitement into what? Into a habit. Because Jim Rohn said it great, motivation is what gets you started, but habit is what keeps you going. But there's a little bit of a kicker with this. There's some nuance here. Something happens when you begin moving in a direction. When you decide to raise that standard, when you decide to start operating from better habits, better routines, better rituals, and all of this other stuff, when you start behaving this way, something comes up every single time that can knock you off course if you're not prepared for it. And I want to illustrate what that something is through a quick story. It's called The Story of the Sower. And it's a Bible story. One day, there was a farmer. He was a hard-working farmer, just like most farmers are. And he had a seed, and it was high-quality seed. It was excellent seed, and he wanted to reap the rewards from the seed. He wanted to harvest, a crop. And so what he did was he went along his farm, and he started planting the seed everywhere, all along his farm, right at the edges, through the center, all around the ridges, everywhere. Night and day, this farmer was working, planting his seed. But then something curious happened. As he was doing this and working hard, planting his seed, some of the seed fell by the wayside. And what happened then? The birds came. Big flocks of birds came to this man's farmland and began swooping down and eating the man's hard work, his seed. Consuming everything that he planted was being consumed by these birds, these menacing birds. But what did the farmer do? He kept on planting. Every single day, day and night, planting all along his farm, throughout, all around the ridges, all around the center, doing what he could to continue making progress so he could have his crop, his harvest. But then, as he continued putting in the work, the thorns came. They began growing out of the ground, and they choked his seeds to death. Again, his efforts were compromised. But what did he do? He continued planting all along that farm every single day. And then finally, because he was working so hard, every single day, planting his seed, eventually he got to reap the reward. His seeds began to flourish, and he got to have his harvest. And I want you to take away this core lesson of this parable right here. And it is, when you are deciding to raise that standard in your life, when you are taking on better habits, you are going to have these birds and these thorns come into your life to knock you off course. It could be friends telling you that what you're doing is stupid. It could be a tragedy in life. Maybe you're trying to work out and get in better shape, and you end up injuring yourself within the first week or so in the gym. It could be maybe you get overloaded with work and your career just overshadows your initial ambitions. This happens all the time. But what we need to do is keep planting. We keep showing up. Now, it's one thing for me to sit here and talk to you guys about this through a Bible lens. This is just a quick illustration, but I think what's more powerful is personal lived experience. And so I wanted to share with you guys a couple of illustrations from my own life, just so you have an idea that I'm not some random guy who's just ripping off Bible stories and then throwing them at you. I live this. This is what I do. This is who I am. The first story I want to share with you, most of you are going to be familiar with, maybe not all of you, but most of you, is the story of me as a rapper. For about 10 years, this was my life. From ages 14 to about maybe 26, 27, more than 10 years, call it 12. This is what I did. Look, it's a representation of that very special time in my life. And what I specialized in was the art of freestyle. I would make raps up on the spot. And what I did was I decided to practice this skill set every single day for at least 1 hour. That was the new standard that I set for myself, because my harvest, my crop was this: to be on stage, to perform, to entertain, to be a source of enjoyment for people. This photo was actually taken about 2 years ago at a friend's business launch party. Their business is still running today. It's a life coach certification company, bless you. And this is a powerful moment because it just represents what I worked so hard for. Not only that, I performed at weddings. I performed at birthday parties. I got to entertain people all over the place, whether it was at weddings, birthday parties, businesses, corporate events, charity events, you name it. I even got hired as a freestyle rapper at a downtown nightclub called Fire and Ice. That's my DJ. Of course, that's me, and I forgot who they are. I'm sure they're nice ladies though. And that was the dream. And it all stemmed from me just practicing my craft for 1 hour a day. But I didn't stop there. I wanted to see where else I could take this. So I took it somewhere else. On April 8th, 2019, I decided to journal every single day for 5 minutes. That's it. Nothing special, nothing spectacular. I just write for 5 minutes a day. There's me as a writer. That journaling habit led to me writing my first book. That led to me starting my first personal development blog. That led to me doing freelance work. That led to me writing for one of Canada's top digital marketing agencies. And now I get to do what I love every single day. I get to pack up my laptop wherever I want to go, and I get to enjoy the fruits of my labor, my harvest. And it all came from me for just writing 5 minutes a day. And then there was one last thing that I wanted to jump on, and that was physical activity. On December 30th, 2020, I decided that I was going to work out every single day. Now, it wasn't an intense workout, like, 45 minutes to an hour of aggressive physical activity. No, those days were included, don't get me wrong, but a lot of times it was just 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes working out in my home. That led to me taking up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where I traveled throughout all of Southeast Asia and trained at some of the best martial arts academies. That led to me running my first marathon, and then my second marathon, and then 4 half marathons. And that led to me traveling halfway around the world to Abu Dhabi, where I ran my first Spartan race. Now, why do I share these 3 stories with you? To prove to you that just these little things that you decide to do, that little improvement in your standard can change and completely shift any area of your life that you decide you want to make a shift in. There's nothing special about me. If I can do it, you can do it. So I want you to imagine what it is that where you want to make that shift within your own life. Imagine it, think about it, and then consider these 3 tips to help you make that shift. Number 1, think long term. Most of us have a very limited way when we think of time frames of our new goals. I want you to think of this as a pressure cooker, not a microwave. Things take time. If you're gonna give up in 6 months, don't even try. Sorry I can't be more encouraging, but these are the facts, you're wasting time. And that leads me to tip number 2. Give yourself at least 2 years. At least 2 years. Guys, with every single one of those stories that I just shared with you, it took 2 years of consistent effort before I saw anything. I did not get any opportunities, any big opportunities, when it came to freestyling until 2 years of consistent effort. I wrote for free every single day before I ever got paid a penny to do it. I was struggling. I was what they called skinny fat. So I looked really skinny, but then I would take off my shirt and I would have chunk hanging all over me. Like, I'm not even kidding, it was pretty gross. It was 2 years where that all fell off of me, and I began to see the fruits of my labor in regards to my physical fitness. I'm healthy, I'm strong now, and I love the way I look. Third, give yourself some grace. Give yourself some grace. Look, we're not perfect. We're going to fall off. I don't want anyone to be so rigid in anything where they feel like they can't make a mistake. That's detrimental psychologically, mentally. Don't do that to yourself. Give yourself some grace and realize that you need to be patient. You're not perfect, and that's okay. None of us is. Before I leave you, I want to share a quote. You don't have to read this, I'm going to read it to you. This is a quote from one of my heroes, Jordan Peterson. And when I first heard this, it's another one of those things that just always stuck with me. He said, "You start by establishing your aim. Then you break down what you're trying to do into attainable units. The general consequence of that is that each time you manage an accomplishment, you grow a little bit stronger in character, you get a little bit more confident in your ability, you get a little less racked with self-disgust, you get a little more hopeful about the future, and you get more confident that you can make another change. And if you're patient, and you have to be patient with yourself that way, you reward those incremental improvements, and you don't get all cynical about them, and you think to yourself, okay, what would happen if I kept doing that every week for 10 years? And the answer to that is, things would be so much better for you that you can't even imagine. Thank you.